Hey everybody, I'm Garcia, and today I'm taking a look at the cooperative card game of Outpost, Siberia. In this card game, everyone is going to be playing a character caught in an otherworldly storm with which new, freaky, bizarre monsters have shown up, and you are attempting to deal with that, attack them, and escape. And you do that by going through an entire deck of encounters, growing the card pool that you can use to encounter those things, managing your resources, managing your supply, and ultimately surviving. So I'm going to show you how this works in just 1 second here so you have an idea, and after that I'll tell you what I think of it. I do want to mention before I get started that I'll be showing you this game and the playthrough and what I think of it based on the rules updates that the company issued for it. This is a game I've had for a long time. It's one I've been sitting on for a long time because I was very unhappy with the game balance. I'm not saying I am happy with it now. I'm just saying the original rules I thought were just extremely punishing. It didn't seem like the game was fair. I think the new rules are better. If you own the game or if you are persuaded by this review to get the game, definitely I would recommend get those rules updates. You're going to need them. So that's having said that and getting that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into a look at it, and I'll see you on the other side. To set up the game, we are going to decide how difficult we'd like the game to be and pick a number of good and bad events to decide that. And we are going to shuffle them into this deck, which is the Expedition deck. This is the deck that we need to get through to win the game. And once we've gone through it all and we still survive, then we've won the game. If any one of our characters perishes and dies because they've lost all of their life points, their HP, then we've lost the game, all of us together. And then the leftover cards, the events that were not added in here, then that is our Outpost deck, and that's where we're going to be drawing cards from. At the beginning, we've also removed 6 cards from this deck, and we've given each player a random one from the beasties that we've pulled out, all right? And so we are ready to begin. Everybody has a character with a special power and some life that they'll be tracking, and then you are ready to go. So you're going to go through a few different phases each round. So you pick a starting player. Let's say this is our player here. Every card, by the way, in the game has a couple of different pieces of information. So it has a bad half, basically, which is what happens, what you deal with when it comes out of this deck. And then it has a good section, which is what it means when it's in your hand or in the supply, which is some face-up cards that you can use as bonuses, benefits. And that is broken up into 2 things up here. So this card, for example, can be food while it's in the supply, or it's an attack of 3 while it's in your hand. And that's it. It's not food in your hand. It's not an attack on the table, all right? So here's what the players will be doing. Let's say we're going to start with the Arctic Explorer over here. You're going to draw 3 cards from the Outpost deck. You'll take a look at those, again, ignoring the bad half. And one of them is going to go in the supply, and one of them is going to go into the player's hand. So I could take a peek here and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to put a first aid kit in the supply to help us heal, and I'm going to put the attack 2 in my hand. And this one simply discarded. Then I could play cards to deal with threats that we are trying to, fight off. There are none right now, so we're going to skip that step, and we go to the next step. I can also, by the way, during all of that, I can use anything in the supply. And then we go to the bad stuff happens step, in which we take one of these, we flip it, we see what it is and deal with it. There are, again, 3 kinds of things. It's a monster, it's a bad event, or it's a good event. In this case, it's a monster. So the monster tells us some effect that it perhaps is a continuing effect or a one-time effect or just some sort of governing rule. And it has an immediate attack as well as a number of hits it's going to take to kill it. So the immediate attack is 1, and that means I need to pick a player other than myself that is not yet exhausted, meaning it's not taken that they haven't taken a turn yet, and they are going to take that hit. Since they are being targeted with the monster, they'll also be the next player. Whereas normally, if it's a good or bad event, I pick the next player. And we all discuss it, and I say, okay, well, you haven't taken a turn yet, you can go. So in this case, we've got this Siberian musk deer, and he deals someone a hit, so we'll deal it to the tracker here. And then it has an effect that says that you cannot use cards with combat value of 1 to attack the musk deer. Fine. And so that's it for this player's turn. They are exhausted. And it'll be the tracker's turn, and they start again with drawing 3 cards. They are going to check this out. They are going to put a flamethrower in the supply, and they will keep another card in their hand. They could now engage with the musk deer. So I have 2 cards with 1s each. This, however, cannot be attacked with 1s, so I'm just going to hang on to them. And I am going to flip a new bad card, and this one is a bad event. In this case, missing medicine. So the first thing it says is we need to pay water from the supply. There is no water in the supply. However, there is one character that can discard a card from their hand and treat it like it's water from the supply. This one does not have that power, though. This character has a power that says you can discard a card from your hand and treat it like a flamethrower. This one says discard a card and treat it like food from your hand. And this one, discard a card and treat it like a flare. And I'll tell you what those things are in just a second. If you cannot pay the cost, then someone has to take a hit. And we'll go ahead and have this character over here take a hit. Anyone. And then the effect happens. In this case, discard 1 first aid kit from the supply if possible. If not, discard 1 water or food from the supply, etc., etc. So first aid kit, fine, it's gone. Both of these go to the discard pile. And then that player's turn is over. Since there was no attack, they would get to pick who's next of the people that are still ready. But there's only one character who's ready, so they'll be next. And they are going to draw their 3 cards. They are going to decide what they want to do with this. So I'll go ahead and put food in here. Let me see. No. I'm going to go ahead and put an ice axe in here. And I'll keep the water in my hand. Well, not the water, to attack. It's not water anymore. Then I could attack stuff. So, I can't do that. Actually, I will take that back. It'll be food. Did I do that right? I did it right enough. Yeah, so it's food, flamethrower, and I have a 2 in my hand that I should have. There we go. A 2 and a 1. So I'm going to attach the 2 attack to the Siberian deer musk here, because I cannot do the 1, otherwise I could have killed him right now. In order to kill something, you need to have enough hits against it to equal the life of the thing or more, and then you have to use a flamethrower or an ice axe to eliminate it. So just having enough hits on it is not enough. You need one of those weapons. And sometimes some critters will say, oh, with this one you need a flamethrower. The ice axe won't do it. Or vice versa, or you need one of each for some particularly nasty monsters, things like that. So I've gone ahead and done that, and now I reveal a bad thing. And it's a raccoon dog, all right. And he is going to hit someone for 1. However, never me, okay, but the other players are all exhausted, so I just pick one, and I'll go ahead and say, okay, well, we'll talk about it and say, okay, you take it. And then this becomes one of the threats. And that's the end of the round, because I am now also exhausted. And once all the players are exhausted, then the round is over. And anything that has out here an effect that says at the end of the round, this happens, that happens, now we deal with that. So, at the end of the round, with the raccoon dog here, one player loses 1 HP. There's a couple of ways we can deal with this. Obviously, someone can just lose 1 HP, but also if you have a flare, you can play a flare to cancel the effect of anything for a whole round. So that's what flares do. The flamethrower, the ice axe help you kill things. First aid kits will heal you for 1 point. And then food and water are needed, usually, for events, to pay for events. All right? So someone's going to take a hit, fine. This player will take a hit. And then everyone readies again. And we start the beginning of the next round with anyone we want to. So we can pick who's going to go first. And the order is fluid throughout the game from round to round. So that's basically it, all right? The idea is once this deck over here runs out, then all the cards that have been discarded, including any monsters that have been killed, and I'll show you how that goes now, that all gets shuffled up and they become a good card. So every bad card you encounter, if you kill it, will eventually become a good card you can use against upcoming baddies. All right? And so that's basically it. I'll go ahead and show you how this would work if I was going to kill, say, the Siberian deer musk, and then I'll stop just taking turns. So we'll go with that one. Draw 3 cards. I'll have that character go first again. I'm going to go ahead and put a flare in there, and I'll keep that one. Now I'm going to add this card to the deer musk. That now has 4 hits on it, which is plenty to kill it, but I still need something to kill it with, so I'll pick flamethrower, and then the flamethrower and enough hits kill all of this, and it's all in the discard pile to again later become good cards once we shuffle and cycle them. And then of course I deal with this. It's an infected researcher. Oh no. So that's it. You just keep doing that, taking, giving other players hits, them taking turns, so on and so on, until you burn through the deck or you lose. You lose if someone's life is completely gone, or if at the end of anyone's turn, not at the end of a round, but the end of anyone's turn, there are 5 threats face up, then you all lose as a group as well. And sometimes you can choose to ignore some of the baddies if they don't have a recurring effect, but you are pushing that limit. You can leave a couple of them safely out here, but you got to be careful that you never hit that threshold of 5 threats, or you're all gonna, be in a world of hurt. So that's basically it. That should give you enough of an idea to understand kind of how the game works. Let's go back up top and let me dive into it a little bit more. All right, so let's talk about it using my target audience system here. I'm going to kick it off with thematic ties. I like the theme in this game a lot. I like the thematic ties of how they make you deal with encounters, monsters, all of that stuff, and then the more you do so, the stronger you get, the more access you have to bigger and better attacks, things like that. One deck informing the other deck, so the bad deck informing the deck you use against the bad stuff. I like that, and it seems thematic to me, and I just like the setting quite a bit. The aesthetics of the game, artwork, components, things like that. I hate the tin box. It's very dinged and damaged. Just hate it. The card quality is fine, and I definitely like the artwork on it quite a bit. And I like multi-use cards. It's very cool. And I think that's neat, and the way that they laid out the cards really works for me as well. The artwork, all of that. From a production point of view, the only thing I dislike is this tin. Everything else is well done. Replayability, scalability. I think the scalability is pretty off. You definitely want more players so that the game is easier. This is, again, a thing that was compounded with the old rules, with 2 players you just couldn't win, really, I think. But anyway, you want more players, and you want a lot of powers in play so that everyone has access to their powers, Not super happy about the scalability. As far as replayability goes, you are going through the same deck pretty much every game. A little less now because you pull out 6 cards. You used to not do that. And you also used to start with an empty hand. So it's a little better because you're going the game, technically the game is slightly shorter. You are burning through fewer cards to finally win. And there are monsters you might not encounter from game to game. 6 are different, right? So I like that a little bit better. I still would not say the game is particularly replayable, though. The puzzle can be a little interesting, okay, you go next because the next thing is this, because of that, whatever. One of the characters in there I think is really useful. That character lets you peek ahead at the upcoming 3 bad cards and then, figure out what they're going to do and have some knowledge. So that's good. They're also really weak. They only have 2 life. So, but still, replayability isn't fantastic, I would say. Game length, downtime, that's all fine. I don't have any problem with that. I think the game does not necessarily outstay its welcome, and you're not waiting around too long, So now let's talk about ease of play, fiddliness, iconography, weird design choices. This is where I have a lot of problems with the game, okay? So as far as fiddly goes, It's fine. I don't have a problem with one deck, like I said, cycling into the other one, dealing with monsters, whatever, that's all fine. It's all basically design choices. I don't think the game is... It just seems like there are glaring moments of design flaws that should have been caught. One example that is well known among people who've played the game, are familiar with it, is these two characters here. These two characters, one of them has 4 life, the other has 3. That character should, following game design logic, have a weaker power. The one that's healthier has a weaker special effect. However, that is not the case. They basically do the same thing, and one of them is harder, in fact, to trigger that special case by having to pay 2 cards instead of 1, yet they only have 3 life. That character, when the other one is available, is worthless. That character is, I would dare say, broken. And that's something that doesn't make sense to me, you know. Some of the special cards in the game, one card in the game, one of the events, expects you to, like this one here. So, if the special event is you pay 1 water, and if you do that, then you put this card in a supply. What is this card? It's 1 water. So you pay a water to get a water, or you don't have a water, you lose a life, and then you get a water. How is this what they classify a good event? At best, it's nothing, you know? So don't get it. That's just a sloppy design. You pay water to get a water, that doesn't feel great. You know what I mean? The other thing I don't like is the idea that all of the characters' powers are just so boring. And it seems like they really drop the ball when it comes to designing what they do. They all do, except for literally the worthless broken guy. And the one that only has 2 life and lets you... Where are they? The one that has 2 life and lets you peek ahead at some cards. Everybody else does the same thing, basically. You discard a card to treat it as water from the supply. Discard a card to treat it as a flamethrower from the supply. Discard a card to treat it as food from the supply. They couldn't come up with anything more clever, more interesting. It doesn't feel awesome to have a power that is so lame. They all do the same thing, basically, for a different kind of card. And there is so much design space that they could have explored there, you know? Anyway, I just find the whole thing to be a little rote, a little sort of by the numbers, you know? And lastly, tactics and strategy and luck and randomness. There is some puzzle solving in this, okay? It's not brain dead. You do want to kind of deal with, okay, do we fight this bad guy or just leave him be? He doesn't have a recurring power, leave him be. Who should be next? Who should take this hit? Things like that. That's interesting, and there is some cleverness there. But it ultimately does feel a little bit scripted. And it feels like you're, as I said, always on the edge of a knife because there is nothing around the knife. You're just barreling down that track. If you veer slightly out, you're dead. But you're never feeling like, yeah, we got this, you know? So it's just not, it doesn't make me feel like I've accomplished so much. I feel smart because of the tactics I came up with, you know? It doesn't give me that feeling pretty much ever, this game. Having said all that, I don't hate this game, right? It's not a game that I'm ready to, like, as soon as I'm done talking to you about it, you know, chuck it aside and not worry about it ever again. It's a game that, to me, I was really psyched about because I love the artwork, I love the concept, I like co-op games. I just feel like it was sloppily, I don't know, it needs more love, you know? I wanted it to be great. Right now, it's just ho-hum, verging on undercooked. That's kind of how it feels to me. And that's with the rules updates, okay? I want to remind you again, even with the rules updates, to me, this feels undercooked. Now, they are going to, from what I understand, where is that sheet of paper? They are working on a sequel to this. Another Outpost. This one, Outpost Amazon. I'm hoping that this one's great. I really am, because I like some of the concepts here. I just hope that they devote more time to balancing that one well, to making sure the players feel invested, that they feel like their own character in the world, and that there's just a little more interest going on as opposed to this by-the-numbers affair that is not as thrilling as I would like it to be. So there you go. That is Outpost Siberia. If you're looking for a tiny card game that is a co-op, maybe there's something here to engage you. I myself pretty much would say you can pass on this one. Maybe wait for the other one, the next one, Outpost Amazon. Maybe that'll be a more engaging, entertaining game. So there you go. I'm Z Garcia. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.